Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Sergio from Realism.com, and today I'm going to be talking to you about discovering helicopter simulation, or as I like to call it, how to start flying these deadly things. And let me start by asking you, how many of you have tried flying helicopters and succeeded? Yeah, raise your hand. Okay. How many of you have tried to fly helicopters and not succeeded? How many of you have not tried to fly helicopters? You haven't? Please leave the room. I'm joking. Okay, so I'd like to start by trying to get you into your comfort zone. Okay, now imagine that you are flying, your favorite aircraft, in your favorite sim, in your favorite scenery. It can be the airport, you have next to your home, in your town. You can do can just be taking off, cruising up, getting into the ocean, or, some mountain scene or into forest, whatever, with a nice, weather and a nice lighting. And now I want to imagine you doing that with a helicopter. Now, how many of you have pictured this? Yeah. Yeah, and there is a reason for that. And studies say, very serious and scientific, not, studies say that the top 3 things people do when they start flying helicopters is crash, crash more, and crash even more. And how's that? There's a simple question. Helicopters are hard to control. Actually, helicopters are very hard to control. It's a thing. It's not you. It's not your computer. It may not be your controllers. It's just how helicopters are. And just like with anything that influences your simming experience, you can reduce it to 3 things: software, hardware, and your behavior. Now, what I will try to do here today is to tell you a bit of my story behind flying helicopters. I'm not going to tell you I started in this year and did that. No, what I'm going to try and do today is to show you that you can start flying helicopters if you are serious about it, using your current gear. Perhaps not using a yoke, that's going to be very difficult, but you can start using it. You can start flying helicopters by using your current gear. If you set up your sim correctly, if you have the right hardware or set your hardware correctly, and if you start to behave in a way that takes you down the path of starting to control helicopters and fly helicopters. Okay, so these are the 3 things that you need to keep in mind. These are the 3 factors, okay? And I want to start by software. And one of the first things that people ask me whenever they come to me and want to start flying helicopters is, Sergio, which one is the best flight simulator for helicopters? And I usually tell them the best flight simulator for helicopters is the one you prefer. Not a very good question, right? Because you want to know which one you should be getting to fly helicopters. And we have so many different simulators today. We have X-Plane, we have DCS, we have Prepared, we have Flight Gear, which is an open source flight simulator. We have Flight Simulator, Microsoft Flight Simulator is still going. A lot of people still use FSX, a lot of people still use Microsoft Flight Simulator 2004, and we have Aerofly FS2 Flight Simulator, we have mobile simulators, etc., etc. I'm just focusing on desktop today. So we have a lot of different simulators today. But then I tell them, okay, you use whatever it works for you, but here's what it works for me. I use 2 different simulators usually, one of them being my main simulator, which is the one you guys see on your right, X-Plane 11. That's actually a great scenery by Prop Strike Studios called Katam River. That's a payware AS350. And that's my main sim. That's the one I use because it has great create helicopter dynamics, allows me to fly the world. Not that I'm going to do any transatlantic flights using a helicopter, but it allows me to fly on my own country. Something that, for example, DCS, which is my second go-to sim, doesn't allow me to. Okay, I cannot go and fly in Portugal or fly from Portugal to Spain or whatever, because the scenery is limited. So software-wise, sim-wise, my favorite choice is definitely X-Plane 11. Now, I'd like to tell you about this other simulator, that it's not very new on the market, but not a lot of people use it or like it. It still lacks. There are still some issues. Some things are still missing. They have, it's a sim that needs some work and some love from the developers. But let me tell you straight away, very honestly, you guys know DCS, right? Who knows DCS? Okay, you guys know X-Plane, obviously, right? Okay, cool. Who knows Aerofly FS2? Who is using Aerofly FS2? Let me tell you guys, Aerofly FS2 has one helicopter. It has the same issues that DCS has, limited scenery, but it has the best helicopter flight model in the market today, hands down. Hands down. So if you are looking for a great experience, even if in a limited scenery area, although you have California and you can fly New York and can get sceneries like Switzerland, for example. You can try to fly at the Peace Gloria at over 10,000 feet. You can take off. I'll assure you, you can take off. If you know what you're doing, you can take off from Peace Gloria, even at that altitude. It's possible. I have done it. The challenge is to land there. Okay, that's a challenge. But yeah, this is right now the best flight dynamics in any flight simulator out there. But by my recommendation again, let me go back, X-Plane 11. Okay, that's what I usually recommend to everybody that asks me what they should be using for helicopter flight simulation. Now, software-wise, okay, we have selected our sim. Okay, you guys are going to use whatever works for you. Again, I recommend X-Plane, but you guys just use whatever works for you. And then we have to start setting up the software in a certain way. Okay, and there's one thing that we need to keep in mind when setting up our software, which is we need to achieve a certain frame rate. If you go below a certain frame rate, helicopters just become uncontrollable because you'll be lagging behind what's happening inside the sim, what's happening inside your CPU, your machine, your computer. Anything below 30 frames per second will make helicopters more difficult to control. And I've seen a lot of guys struggle with helicopters. I have seen a lot of guys with nice hardware, with a good mindset, very willing to try helicopters, but the thing is, their machine was not allowing them to go past 30 frames per second, or they have, so much eye candy, so many reflections, so much AA, so many things that, make it look pretty, that they were flying at around 20, 25, 26, and that's just not feasible for helicopters. You can get away with it with fixed wing. You cannot get away with it with helicopters. So that's one of the first challenges you guys will find, okay? And you will have to do, some tough choices. That's my settings screen for X-Plane. Now, I have to tell you, I have an i7, I have a GTX 1060. I can do VR decently. Laminar Research has done a hell of a job, but I had to do some compromises. And if you see, my anti-aliasing slider and my reflection detail is all the way to the down, almost to 0. I'm okay with that. I'm really okay with that. I do most of my flights in, using VR. So to be honest, I don't really miss AA that much. It works for me. And I can get pushed well past 30 frames per second. And that helps a lot. Okay, that really helps a lot. So that's kind of like, the rule of thumb I would give you regarding setting up the rendering part or the software part of your sim. Now, connecting software with hardware, we need to get, to configure our software, in order for us to be able to use our hardware better. And these are the recommendations I do to everyone that tries flying helicopters. If you are using, for example, X-Plane, again, this is just an example. I will show you prepared in a few seconds. Both my sliders are to the left. This increases the capacity I have to control the helicopter. I'll have more control after I have more control of what's happening with the helicopter. I can react quicker. Every time I move my joystick just a little, the helicopter does its thing. If it starts to get out of control, I can get a better control. It does get time. It does take time to get used to it. It's not something you'll just immediately do, and it's done. I know some guys that have tried, they have used the stability augmentation sliders a bit to the right, and then start from there. They went from there, and then they started, reducing the stability augmentation to a point where there's none. I know some real pilots, this all depends on your hardware, but I know real pilots that for certain helicopters, they have actually increased a bit of stability augmentation to make it feel a bit more real. This is how I use it. This is my recommendation to everybody. If you're not comfortable with it, just increase stability augmentation. You'll be able to control the helicopter, but it won't be as realistic as if you pull it to the left, okay? I'm going to give you the example for P3D, for example. I set the sensitivity to the maximum and I reduce the null zone. Again, it gives me more control of the helicopter. More sensitivity, I move the joystick and the aircraft responds immediately. No null zone allows me to just do some fine movements around the center. And this helps tremendously. You will have a lot more control over the helicopter. Again, it takes time. You cannot just yank, you cannot just go and yank the joystick left and right. You cannot yank the collective all the way up. You need to do things smoothly, right? And having a fine tune and have the ability to actually move the joystick just a little and things get, happen, the helicopter reacts, allows you to control the helicopter much more. Okay, going into the hardware, controls are very important. And it's very difficult. I know, I've been through there. It's actually very, very, very difficult for you to control a helicopter with a regular joystick. So, actual helicopter controls help a lot. Trust me. This is actually a kit I have at home. This is a Pro Flight Trainer Puma. This replicates a helicopter control set. It has no centering springs, so I don't have to be struggling with the joystick all the time. It doesn't, it doesn't even have a centering spring on the pedals, so I'm not struggling with the pedals either. I just leave them there, and there they go. But you can use a regular joystick. Heck, I started with Sidewinder. Do you guys remember this joystick? That's a joystick that I used to start flying helicopters, and I used it for many years. Was it easy? No. Did I do it? Yes. Why? I don't know. But I did it. And then for many, 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 many years, I used the Saytech X45. And all of a sudden, I had the ability to do something that allowed me to fly helicopters easily. It's still a joystick, right? It still has, all the axes the Sidewinder had, but there was one thing, one trick that I realized helped me to to have better control of the helicopter. Helicopters are not like fixed-wing aircraft. You don't just, you can trim them, but usually you have to push the cyclic forward, and to maintain forward speed, you have to keep it there. Now, if you have a spring on the joystick, that spring will want to center the joystick, right? So you're going to be always struggling with the joystick and try to push it forward. Here's the trick. Here's the thing that I loved on the X45. And here's the thing why I usually recommend the X52 or 55 or 56. I compressed the spring. I removed the spring. I removed the one thing that was fighting me the whole freaking time, pardon my French, that I was trying to fly the helicopter. I just took it away. Yeah, the joystick fell to the side, whenever it was towed, it was just like tilted. I don't care. I'm trying to fly helicopters. Actually, I have flown helicopters in flight sims for 99.9% over the last 17 years. That's pretty much all I fly. I'm okay with this. I just want to be able to control my joystick. And this, guys, is the tip that really saved my life. Honestly. Once I start flying helicopters without the centering spring, things change. Once I start flying helicopters with pedals, which I didn't have until much later after I got the X45, things change. I start building on top of it. It's like I told you in the beginning. I'm trying to help you achieve the best results with what you have right now. This is what I had back then. The Sidewinder was what I had back then. And I struggled to fly helicopters. I really did. It was really hard. It was frustrating. I saw a lot of videos of a lot of guys, flying helicopters and landing and doing that thing. And I was like, did they hack these things? Did they get, hacks and editor and just change stuff? Did they edit the video? Is this Photoshop? No, it wasn't. Folks were actually doing that, and I wanted to do that, and I struggled to do that, and I managed to start doing it with the software I had and the hardware that I had. Now, going back then to that time, and remember that time, I can relate to what a lot of you guys feel when you start flying helicopters. It's not like, people enjoy helicopters right from the start. You guys get a flight simulator, you guys are going to fly airliners or Cessnas or whatnot. Yeah, it's cool to fly helicopters, but it's not like the first thing that you'll do. And you'll get used to the fixed-wing aircraft. You'll get used to the Cessnas, you'll get used to the airliners. And one day you just decide to try helicopters just for the sake of it, and you crash some more, and you crash even more. Remember the high scientific study that I showed you? Yeah, that's a thing. It's very scientific, don't laugh. It's something that, it's very hard to get out of that zone, that zone of comfort and get into something that, it just won't give you any joy. But it will. Over time, it will. I'd like to just tell you guys this story. I was talking to a friend of mine, I don't know, it's a couple of weeks ago, and he was telling me that he wanted to fly helicopters. And he picked up, I think it was the default S-76 for X-plane. And I just went there and I pushed the throttle all the way to 100%, and that thing just went all bananas. And I said, look, you cannot do that. You can't do that. You'll have to be very, very gentle. Yeah, but I'm used to do that on my Cessna. Yeah, but you cannot do that. Never mind. It's a different mindset. You guys need to realize that helicopters are a completely different mindset. And I'm going to tell you the three secrets for mastering helicopters. And the three secrets for mastering helicopters, it's practice, practice, practice. Okay, I cheated. It's not this. Yeah, but you guys need to practice. The three secrets to flying helicopters, in my opinion, is practice, yes, be persistent, and be coherent. Here's the thing. Remember one of the first sliders? Helicopters are hard to control. We need to practice. We need to try and get better every time, every single time. And just go at it. Just be persistent. But do it in a way that is smart for you. Do it in a way that will allow you to actually become a better helicopter pilot. Throw away the variables. Just select an airfield, stick with the airfield. Select a time of day so that the shadows are all in the same position in every session. Just do it at the same time of day. select a weather theme. I would recommend just clean weather, no wind, or just a 5-knot wind that helps you if you get your nose pointing to the wind. Stick to it. Get the helicopter to a certain weight, to a certain amount of fuel. Stick with it. For every single session you guys do trying to master your helicopter, do that session under the same circumstances, with the same helicopter, on the same airfield, same weather, everything the same. Do not change the variables. Make them constant so that you get used to it. You'll have to learn how the helicopter reacts. You have to realize what happens, okay? One other tip I'd like to give you guys still about hardware actually, I forgot it. When you are controlling the helicopter, if you have a regular joystick, one of the things that I usually tell to people is, look, do not hold the joystick like in a fighter jet. Place your hand on the base of the joystick and use your fingers to control it. It will be hard because you have a spring, but if you remove the spring, it will be a lot easier, okay? And then you can do all the fine movements you want to. Yesterday I was talking to one of the guys, I think he's here actually, and he was saying, look, I'm trying to control the helicopter, and I try to get in a hover, and the helicopter starts moving forward, and I pull the collective, and then it goes back, and I push the collective, and then go forward, and I go, in a pendulum. And I told him, yeah, you're over controlling the helicopter. How is that possible? Well, the thing is, a helicopter is not a fighter jet. You don't just move the joystick and you'll go all crazy. Well, helicopters will go crazy, not the way we want to. You have to let the helicopter settle in. After you do some movement with the joystick, just let it sink in for, half a second. If you crash for some reason because, you waited too long, let it crash. Do it all over again. Just repeat it. But don't over-control the helicopter. Just let it do its thing. Fine movements, precision, very calm. Let the helicopter do its thing. Learn how it behaves. You don't have to do this when you're flying a fixed wing. It's not that much of a behaviors thing. For helicopters, you need to understand how the machine behaves. Okay, so guys, set your software straight. Get at least 30 frames per second. Configure it so that your joystick has the maximum amount of control over the helicopter. Relax. Do fine movements. Let the helicopter just do a thing. Practice, practice, practice. I hope that helps. I hope you guys get into helicopters. I hope you enjoy it more and more. I'll be more than happy to talk to you guys, answer your questions, answer to your emails. Join us at thealisimmer.com. We also have a Facebook group. Join the group. It's an amazing group with great people, real helicopter pilots, a lot of guys that do simming for a lot of years. Just let me know if you need any help, and I'll try to help you the best I can. Okay, any questions? I'll take any questions if you guys have them. Sure.
Have you done any flying with autogyros or autoplanes?
So if I have done any flying with autogyros, yes, I have. Viscal has a great autogyro for X-Plane 11, and I've been using it, and it's a blast. It's really nice. It's really nice to use. Anyone else?
Sergio, could you say a bit more about VR and helicopter flying and what it's like?
Yes, of course, VR. Not a novelty anymore. If you can get into VR for helicopters, it's a game changer. It really makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference. It's not just something that is cool. I would risk it and say that VR is even more of a game changer, even more interesting for helicopters than for any other type of aircraft, because you start to get a better perception of the world around you. The fact that you can get a bit more field of view and you can start sensing things to the side. The fact that you have a better depth perception, this all helps you. The fact that you can actually look down and see where your skids are. You can even do vertical reference. That's just mind-blowing. And the first time I tried VR, and I can blame a certain gentleman here in the crowd, Mr. Belgio, Mr. Purple Hat guy. He told me, Sergio, you have to try VR. And I was like, okay. And then he told me, no, Sergio, you have to try VR. And I was like, okay. And then he went, no, Sergio, you have to try VR. And I tried VR. I bought a system, I'm hooked. It's just that much of a difference. That's one of those investments that you do for flight simming that really pays up when it comes to helicopters. Get a good set of controls, get a VR system, and you are all the way in for some, amazing experience with helicopters.
I just want to add on that for you. I've been flying simulators for 37 years, and every 6 months I try to fly a helicopter, crash it, give up on it, try to get a few years later. I got my VR headset, I got it in View and PCS, I got somebody online I was flying as well. I have switched from fixed wing to helicopter, that's 80% of my time in the helicopter that week. It is the most exhilarating, best experience in flight simulation with VR.
That's a better presentation than mine. It is. Yes, it is. It is. It's a mind. It's really a mind change. Game changer. I'm sorry. For how long have you simming? 37 years? Yeah. Oh, yeah. For how long do you use VR? Year and a half. Yeah. Do you fly mainly DCS or any other sims? DCS and X-Plane. Okay. Have you used helicopters in X-Plane as well? Yeah. Okay. And it's yeah. Awesome. Awesome experience. Yeah. And it takes practice and VR. All right. Folks, any more questions? Back there. Yes. When you're talking about simul quality, you're talking about the model or the flight model? There's an R22 for X-Plane 11 from Dreamfall Creations. They have done it for X-Plane 10. It does work in X-Plane 11. It's not completely perfect, but it works nicely. It's actually the R22 I use in X-Plane. I don't fly that much. I'm not that much of a big fan of the R22. For smaller helicopters, I like, for example, the Cabra G2. V-Skylabs released one some time ago, and I kind of got hooked into it. But you can try the Dreamfoil Creations one. It's nice. Dreamfoil Creations. Yeah, just look it up at xplane.org. Go to the helicopter section. They have a section just for Dreamfoil Creations. If you guys don't know about Dreamfoil, Dreamfoil is like this developer. It's like God for helicopters in X-Plane, right? These guys do amazing helicopters for X-Plane. They have stopped for some time. There's been some gaps since the last release, but they are just amazing for helicopters. I'm sorry, you're going to ask? First turbine helicopters for which sim? FXX and P3D. Anything you can get from Milvies or the Nemeth brothers will work. What I also recommend you is, I'm not going to get into any sim war, guys. You use what you want, but FXX and P3D doesn't have a very good helicopter flight model. That's the thing, okay? But there is something you can find actually at my website. You can send me an email and I send you the link, called HTR, Helicopter Total Realism, which is an external module that you run, and you have to have some profiles for the helicopter you're flying, but it will make the physics of the helicopter much, much more realistic than the ones that Prepared and FSX has. Get, for example, the A-Star from, I think it's from Nemeth. Get the A-Star from Nemeth. get a profile for HTR, and just practice. Just, you have to keep this in mind. If you try the A-star without HTR and you get the hang of it, and then you try with HTR, it's going to be much more difficult. But do expect that because it's much more realistic, okay? Sir? Oh, okay. Okay, there you have it. Any more questions? Yeah, the Bell 407. Guess who does it? Dreamfall Creations. It's, in my opinion, the 407 and the X-Trident 412 are currently the best helicopters for X-plane. They're just amazing. The 407, it's terrific. Any more, guys? Shoot. Oh, yeah. I've done a bit with X-plane. I have been in contact with X-plane, with Leibniz Research about it, and they are happy with what they have right now, but it's not really that fun, to be honest. It's weird. There's this Swiss team, Swiss Creations, called Swiss Creations, that's working on a sling loading plugin. I've been testing it and helping them with some problems that they have. I have no idea when it's coming out. We actually have a review for it at alisimmer.com. We're just waiting to release it. But yeah, yeah. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. You can do sling loading with DCS. Yeah, that's the thing. But yeah, it's not easy. Any more questions? No? Are we done? Okay. Thank you very much for being here. See you next time.